Hey, what's up? So, this video may be short, but I wanted to talk about supporting Black owned businesses. But you definitely have to be careful when you're talking about or when you're trying or wanting to support Black owned businesses. So, most Black owned businesses, unfortunately, are very small businesses, which usually may include some type of a hair salon, clothing store, or nail shop, or something to that effect. These types of businesses do not really change or make much difference in the Black community as far as how we actually live. Those types of shops are not necessary, they're not necessities, they're wants. And there's nothing wrong with that. Make your money, get your money, and if you're going to spend, at least try to spend with them, especially and particularly if they do a good job. However, we do have businesses like dealerships that claim to be Black owned. You have schools that claim to be Black owned. You have banks that claim to be Black owned. And a lot of these companies are Black faced. They're defaced with Black skin, but they are not Black owned. The You have to do research on these companies before you decide to put your money into them, because the only time that you'll start to see a lot of the times what's really what is if and when you get screwed over. And as a Black consumer, believe me, if these Black owned public companies and even these so-called private companies like Black private schools and Black private banks and so forth, you will get screwed over a lot of the times, not all the times. But that's where you have to do your research. So when they say that they're Black owned and they tell you that the CEO and the COO of these companies are Black, ask them who are their investors. If it is a public business, anything, even when they claim that it's private, anything that is open to people, anybody can get in. It is a public business. So when they tell you that it's a Black owned business, ask them who are their investors, who are their shareholders. If their shareholders are white, it is not Black owned. What that means is that if the so-called CEO, COO, and every other Black person within that company does not follow the guidelines that those white investors set forth, the white investors can either overthrow the CEO, COO, and the so-called owners or the people that are representing the company. They can either overthrow them, push them out, and hire either who they want to or take over completely, or they can just pull their investment out, which means that the company, if they pull their investment out, that means that the company will no longer exist. And then whatever it is that you have invested into that company as a consumer, meaning whatever money you put in there, if it's for a bank, whatever money you put in for your education, going to get a car, and you have a warranty with that particular place. What me honestly, if you have a warranty anywhere, you can, for a particular brand of car, you can get it fixed at multiple different shops um, that accept that warranty. But even then, you have to be careful when you're putting your money into those places, because your investment will be null and void. There's a lot of colleges that got shut down, and these are not necessarily Black owned colleges, but you got a lot of these med advanced institutes and different colleges like that, tech, or I think they're considered technical schools. They got shut down, and people can't even use their degree from there. You have a lot of Black colleges that are fighting to stay around, and they need people to invest in the school. Um, One college in particular, I won't say no name, not yet at least, it's an HBCU. And they started allowing a lot of foreign students to get into the school for free. So, pretty much, if you are an African or any Asian, Caucasian descent, or white descent, such as an Indian, Chinese, Arab, a Caucasian that claims Hispanic descent or whatever, you can get into this Black college for free. And the, or even Caribbean. But Ironically enough, being that it's an HBCU, a historically black college, most of the black students are forced to either pay their way or they have to get financial aid and get pretty much caught up in debt. So most people can't afford the financial aid, most black students, so they leave, they drop out. And so this particular HBCU is now predominantly a foreigners school, but they still have the title of HBCU. And the only reason why they're able to keep their investors is because they are allowing these non-black students into the college for free to get a free education, whereas the black students are not given that same opportunity. Again, I won't say the college just yet, but this is how a lot of these black owned or these so-called black institutions work to pretty much keep black people in debt or to just screw us over altogether. So we have to be very careful about supporting black owned businesses and do the research of who it is that's investing in these colleges and the stipulations that they have at these so-called black owned institutions, such as what are they requesting from you. Um, because a lot of the times, if it seems too good to be true, it really is. Do not allow these companies to pander to you by showing you black images with, so-called black African goddesses and deities and, all of these things that they use to sell to the Negro. Do not allow yourself to get um, caught up in the illusion of an image, because we do spend. When we spend, we spend, but don't allow yourself to spend your money with the company that's pretty much just trying to take your money, and they live good and their white friends live good, and you still in poverty trying to figure it out and looking for a black hope and a black savior. Anything that is US funded is not, most times it's not for black people. These people are not trying to let another black Wall Street happen. And so many black people that claim to be in these high places and spaces that do business with white people, they're just trying to get the money because they never really had it, or they trying to keep it coming. So don't be confused. Also, this disillusion and this confusion about black people being the top spenders and how we have $1 billion spending power. Well, ask yourself this, right? Why is it that they kicked Meek Mills out of the hotel? Because they know that it's not many black people with that type of money that can go to those places. And 5 white people can make up what Jay-Z can drop in that hotel in one night. 5 white people can make that up in 1 week. So they ain't giving a damn. And when I say a week, I'm not talking about a weekend included. I'm talking about a business week, 5 days. So they don't give a damn about black people, the few black people, the handful of black people that got enough money to come in those places, because it's not many in comparison to white folks. So anything that is put out there by white media talking about black people, how we spend and how we do certain things, it needs to be questioned, because it's never to make us look good. It's always to make us look stupid. And black people regurgitate these so-called statistics and these fake ass facts, and all you doing is just making your own people look bad. The only thing that black people really spend in is hair and nails and probably makeup, and not even that much of that, because they'll go to the damn Family Dollar or something like that for the most part, or Dollar General, and get them a Queen Latifah foundation for less than $10. So when they talk about we have spending power, how do we have so much spending power when we don't, the jobs ain't coming to us? And most of the shoes that they talking about black people spend their money on, okay, very rarely you will see, not very rarely, but you see black people, black males in particular, they like the Nikes and the Jordans. But let's be very honest, a lot of those shits, there's a store that I know of in particular that sell Nikes for $20. And they so-called real Nikes. A lot of people buying a lot of knockoff stuff. White people invest in those businesses. White people buy a lot of that name brand shit and it looks regular to you and you think that it's not name brand, but it is. They just go off of the fact that black people, so-called descendants of slaves, are naturally flashy people. We can make something that's $10 look like it's $100. They know us better than we know ourselves. And when I say we, I'm not talking about me in particular. I'm just saying that as black people, we just don't know who we are. So we assume that anytime a black person is wearing something flashy, oh, they went ahead and spent all their rent money to get that. No, they just probably bought something that's cheap and made it look good because we are naturally like that. It says it in the Bible, and I'm not a Christian. I'm not a religious person, period. So they take truths, they meaning white folks in these corporations, they take truths and spin it to a false narrative to make us look bad. Black people do not have that type of spending power. Black people buy the things that they want and they feel that they need right then and there. A quick need, or not a quick need, an immediate, a so-called an immediate want that can be confused as a need. And that's usually hair and nails is what black people spending their money on. You take these big fancy ass trips to Dubai, Puerto Rico, Mexico, you don't see black people in an abundance taking these trips. Black people from America. You see a few, but most of the times you seeing all white people. So where's the spending power? Again, what black people spend their money on is hair and nails. And that is the reason why China is giving the US a run for their motherfucking money. And so that's the reason why you got black girls that's trying to be entrepreneurs or that are entrepreneurs. They're tapping into the hair and nail market. Black people ain't spending their money on all that extra Louis Vuitton and Gucci shit. That is something that they have these black rappers and athletes promote. And regular black American civilians cannot afford that shit. We'll get the knockoff though. And when I say we, I don't put that bullshit ass brand on my motherfucking back. So we have to stop allowing these people to tell us who we are and then regurgitate it back like we know so motherfucking much and we done found the holy fucking grail of what our problem is. No, the problem is that black people keep going to these corporations trying to get a job, working like slaves and barely making ends meet. And when they want to get their motherfucking hair done like any female does, we get criticized for it. The fuck? I mean, damn, you work that hard. Don't you want to make sure that you look nice and feel good? So, not to stay on that topic for too long, but yeah, so our spending power ain't that motherfucking high like that. So don't get it twisted. Don't get it twisted. If it was, we black people would not be, we would be the ones owning the jobs. Every time you go on a job interview, for the most part, I'll say, for the most part, when you go on a job interview, it'll be somebody black hiring you, and it'll be a white assistant. Until that happens, black folks ain't got no spending power because we don't control the money. We don't control how the money is distributed. We don't do none of that. So when we talk about supporting these black-owned businesses, especially these public businesses, these businesses that are open for any so-called black person in America to attend, you have to do your research because a lot of the times these companies are not black-owned. There are black faces, there are black CEOs, but the investors, in order to get the business up and running, are white people, which means that they technically own how the business regulates business. And if they feel as though it's going to bring in business and traction based on how it's promoted and marketed from black consumers, then they're going to go ahead and put their money into it. We don't have enough Black people that have enough money to invest in any huge business. That's the reason why when they talk about investors, Black investors, they specifically speak of celebrities. When they talk about white investors, that white investor is a white investor and he ain't a rapper or nothing else. So therefore, a Black investor has had to get his money off of rapping, dancing, singing, and then he can flip his money and then utilize it to do what he wants to do with it. But he ain't coming in the game as an investor. It's very few. Not to say that there aren't any out there. There was a young boy that I looked up online who, when I was looking up investing and Black investors and Black people who made money off of investing, this young kid was investing in Nike stock, and I was putting my money into the Nike stock before the whole Colin Kaepernick situation popped off, simply because of what that young kid did. There was another investor, a Black guy who worked as a janitor or security guard or something, and he became a millionaire in his later life due to investing in blue stock chips like Coca-Cola. But it took him half of his damn life to even get to that point, whereas you got these white investors who are making money and becoming billionaires off of investing. Okay, I mean, they own the market, so they know who to talk to, who to get their information from. Black folks don't have that. We don't create that system. I mean, it's interesting because all a white person has to do is create a system or an idea. Not create a system, but create an idea, speak it up very well, and it doesn't even exist. It means nothing. It means nothing if nobody invests in it. Not, and there's different levels of investing. The investing one is the people who put the money into it, but the investors, the investors are the ones who, the main investors are the ones who put the money into it to get it started up, and then the small investors are the consumers. And in order to get the consumers interested, the large investors have to know that the person who is going to put the business out there knows how to market it and promote it correctly. And then you give them enough money to go ahead and execute that plan. And because they're white and they seemingly have an idea that sounds halfway convincing, they'll go ahead and give their money to their people. It has absolutely nothing to do with, I'm struggling trying to get this money and I need to figure out how I'm going to go ahead and get this company started. That's not what white people go through. So when you have Black owned banks and institutions and schools like that, when they can get a white investor and white folks investing in their brand, usually it's because they want a little bit more money. And white people want their hand in it because they see that it could pop off and this person may be able to get a Black millionaire to invest. Maybe. So what they'll do is they'll go ahead and get their shares and they pretty much know they own it. They're not trying to give that Black person that freedom. So again, just to keep this video halfway short, do your research when you're talking about investing or putting your money as a consumer into any Black owned business, and make sure that it is thoroughly owned, operated, ran, and controlled and invested in by Black folks. If it's not, then it's some bullshit. Don't waste your motherfucking time, because you will go through some shit, because a coon will always try to show their master that they're not for Black folks. Yes, they will get Black consumers because you are a business at that point. You are not somebody who they are trying to protect. You are not somebody that they're trying to build with. They're trying to build off of you. They do not do business like white folks. White folks try to build with other white folks, and in the meantime still try to get rich. And those white people understand what's going on. So they make sure that their people stay rich, so that they have a place and a hub and a space to go to that is protection for them to a degree. Black owned companies a lot of the times just want to get your business and show their white investors that this is not going to be some Black Wall Street situation. Do not worry about that. If something happens, fuck them. Let them go ahead and make a lawsuit, and then we can handle it from there. But that lawsuit is a guarantee sign to those white investors that these motherfucking Black folks are not trying to make any type of revolutionary business for themselves. This is not a hub for black people. This is just a space where these niggas could spend their money. It's how to sell to the Negro. White people do it and black people do it. And when white people get enough money, what they do is they blatantly show you blackface. When black people do it and they get enough money, they fuck you off with your money. And then you have to call around and see who you can get in touch with. And then these black CEOs barely want to listen to what the fuck you got to say. So don't be a fool. Do your research when you're trying to support black owned businesses, and make sure, like I said, that it's thoroughly owned and operated by black folks, which is very highly, I won't say ineffective, but it's not going to be as common because we live in a system that does not promote anything of blackness. And the only way that something like that can happen if it's underground. But anyways, y'all have a good day and do your research. I'm out.